We're now going to take you to Limpopo, where we are joined by Linda Mnisi, who's joining us from Seshego. Linda, tell us about how things are going there. Also, there have been some concerns before that have been raised, specifically in an area called Juju Valley.
Absolutely, Aldrin, and that's exactly where I am this morning. This is one of the high-risk voting stations that the IEC has identified. They're keeping a close eye on this particular station, given the developments that happened last week when that clash between some members of the ANC as well as the EFF, which led essentially to a 9-year-old girl sustaining gunshot injuries. We know that that little girl is recovering from hospital. Her mother telling us earlier this week that she's been taken to a different ward after being released from ICU. But this morning, Aldrin, you see the first batch of voters coming out in their numbers. In fact, before 7 o'clock, the queue was already here. We found people waiting for the gates to be open, and more people are coming. The situation is relatively calm compared to, of course, when that particular incident that I'm speaking about happened that other day. Let's try to speak to some of the voters. Tabela le kae?
Rona le kae?
Le tsogile ka nako mang today?
Ke tsogile ka 6.
So, wa re o batla go tlo vota goseng gore you have the rest of the day to yourself?
Yes, cause mo ke fetsa mo ke ya ko moshomong. Then ke rile ke nyaka tla go bea emaka. Then gore ge go itla go bala history le nna ke be ke le gona ka gare ga history eo.
Mpolele ka gore o dula kae and ke change efeng o batlang go ibona ka vote o tlo etsang?
Ke dula ona mo Juju Valley. Then the only thing ke need re hlokang mo ga botse bolela nnete. Ke ditsela ke mohlagase ke metsi. Tšeo tsona go bolela nnete re tloa re di hloka. Mara gane nna mo ke lebeletše if le gore mohlomongwe re ka kgona ba ka kgona gore bea ga botse ka mo then ra ba le mohlagase a no nka tloa ke ithabela gago.
And for wena mama?
Le nna ke tsogile ka 6 o'clock. Ke dula mo Juju Valley. Ntho re kgopelang go gore re tlo bea market today. So re kgopela gore ba re ishe matlho ba re lebelele ba tle ba re lokishetse mo Juju Valley ba re bea ga botse ba re lokishetse le rena re tshwana le naga tše dingwe. Ke a leboga.
Ke a bona gore di-gate di butse ka 7 ne ke Limo ha di-gate di bula. Le wena mama ke bone le fitlhile early le batla go vota. Wena o tsogile ka nako mang? Oh, I don't know for it. All right. Okay, so she can't speak at the moment because she does not have a voice. But the lady and gentleman that I spoke to, Aldrin, are telling us that they woke up very early. The gentleman telling us that in fact he woke up early because he still has to go to work. But essentially, they want to be counted amongst the people who will be making history today, taking a decision to do something about their living conditions. This is the only time that they get to voice out, their frustration. They say that they live here in Juju Valley. If you can see, I'll ask my colleague Max Lotolo to just give you a sense of what it looks like. It is an informal settlement where people generally have to leave their homes to get water from a distance, and they're saying that all they need are services, basic services like water and electricity. Like I indicated earlier on, this is one of the stations that are being closely monitored. And already from inside the station, you're also seeing members of the SAPS who are closely monitoring the situation here. On the first day of the special vote, when we got here around midday, they had, administered about 16 votes, 16 people had voted, and they still had, more votes to administer, around 2 home visits that they needed to do. So inside here, you see the IEC officials also quite busy. But at the moment, as I give you a sense of what is happening inside this voting station, I want to take you to my colleague, Nasiphi Same, who's out in Sea Point in the Western Cape. Nasiphi?
Well, Linda, earlier on this morning, we spoke to two very eager voters at Sea Point, and we have managed to move from Sea Point, currently in the suburb of Pinelands, and we will be crisscrossing the city of Cape Town, giving you an update and a view and a perspective as to how May 29th is looking like, general elections where citizens will be coming out in their numbers, in droves, voting for a government for the next term. However, somebody who is standing currently at one of the queues here in Pinelands is Mike. Mike, I see that you are a bit further away from the entrance point, but snake-like queues are ready here in Pinelands. Talk to us about how you're feeling.
Well, it's good to be here. It's good to vote. I think it's important. And even though I'm over 60 and I could get to the front of the queue, I'm not going to. I'm standing in the queue because otherwise my wife won't speak to me for the rest of the day. But I'm eager to vote, and I think it's a good vibe, and everybody seems peaceful, and the queue seems to be moving quite quickly, so it shouldn't take that long.
And Mike, if you could maybe take us through the rationale, not even rationale, but reasons why you're voting. I mean, others are talking about voting for change, but what are your reasons that bring you here today?
I think it's important to vote. I think that at least means that for the next 4 years you've made a contribution. And it doesn't matter which party you're voting for. I think it's important as a right for a South African. All South Africans should be vote. In fact, I think it should be mandatory to vote. But it's very important to cast your vote in the interests of making a difference and in the interests of projecting whatever your feelings are, no matter what they may be, towards the political future of the country.
Mike, we'll have to leave it there. Mike, there, one of the many. I'll just ask my colleague to show you the queues. One of the voting stations here in Pinelands. A number of people coming out to their numbers. We heard from the IEC when they launched the Provincial Results Centre this past weekend that over 3.3 people have registered to vote, and this forms part of that 3.3. We understand that the past 2 days with the special vote, over 84,000 people were expected to cast their votes. However, we will be crisscrossing the city of Cape Town, going to hopefully all the corners of Cape Town to give you a perspective as to how people are feeling ahead of the much anticipated general elections of 2024.